Okay. Okay, so our session goals for today, I've kind of already talked through the basic, the general, but to dive a little deeper into that, social media strategy, it feels like one of those buzzwords that you hear you hear people say often, or if you're searching, researching social media strategy, a lot of stuff comes up and there doesn't seem to be a lot of meat to it, right? Like what even is a social media strategy? And where do I start when it comes to creating one? So we will talk through that in detail. We'll also talk about being on brand recognition, brand awareness. Creating a brand is also another buzzword that we hear a lot about that is kind of fuzzy for some of us, right? What does that mean? How can I achieve this without overthinking or worrying too much about everything being perfect? To, and that end up hindering you from posting and working on that strategy. And then a weekly posting routine. So we love routines. We love batching content when we can. We love time blocking to do this because otherwise, you know it, I know it. Social media is something that easily gets put on the back burner if we don't make it a priority. So, what could that look like for you? We'll talk about that as well. And then setting up your profiles the right way. So that's also an area that just kind of gets left behind sometimes because we don't really know what we're doing when we get on those platforms and it's overwhelming and there's a lot going on. How do we set up those profiles correctly to optimize them? And tools that I recommend that can save you time with all of this because we don't want to spend an obscene amount of time each month batching and creating our content, right? We have other things to do. You are not full-time content creators, thankfully, right? And then how to show up to do all of this with confidence, even if it feels like, okay, I've been putting off social media, I've been putting it off. It's become more and more of a necessity in business each year. Trying to grow a brand without social media gets harder and harder. It's also hard to do it with social media. So that's why we're here today to figure out how to best use your time. And why does social media matter for realtors? I'm sure you've heard all of these reasons enough, but I feel it's important to get that understood, that why understood to keep you motivated and moving the needle forward. So, like I said, each year it's become more and more prevalent. And when buyers and sellers are considering who they're going to work with, they expect to find you on social media. That social proof to back up if they get a personal referral from someone going onto social media. It's something that people are doing more frequently than they're even visiting websites of businesses because it's like an active landing page. What are they doing day to day? How actively are they working? Are they in this industry, in this business? And it gives you an opportunity to show who you are before that phone call, before that initial email. So people get a feel for the person behind the business. And if they'll get sort of, I hate to use the word vibe, but they'll get the vibe of whether you guys would be a good fit or not. So all of this creation, content creation, creating a social media strategy, it starts with mindset. So if we say, oh, social media is hard, I don't like doing social media, it's too hard, it's too time consuming, then yes, it will be all of those things. If you look at it through a different lens as you try to get started in 2026, and maybe that means just finding the bare minimum of what needs to be done and what you can do to get content up, to be more consistent, to get um, the quantity out there, then confidence will build and it's kind of a snowball effect and it won't seem so hard anymore. We all start somewhere. So let's not wait for things to be perfect before posting because you'll see content out there from actual content creators or people who have been doing this for years and years, and it will make you stop and think twice before posting your own content, but I don't want that for you. So consistency and authenticity are what will change the game if you're actually wanting to like I said, move the needle in 2026. We want more authentic content from you. We don't want regurgitated advice. We don't want cookie cutter posts. We want to see you and your face and making those authentic connections. So, with that, with all this mindset talk, and I'll talk about this more when I get into the strategy piece, but I don't want you thinking social media means you have to be everywhere. I always preach, first of all, figure out where your target audience is, which we're going to dive into momentarily, and start there. Pick, even if it's just one platform, that's great. Pick a platform where your audience lives, where you feel most comfortable. And then most often you can start, once you get used to that in that rhythm, you can start switching it up, adding in another platform and repurposing the content you're already creating. So we're working smarter, not harder in those instances. Okay, social media strategy. What what does that actually mean when someone says we're going to create our social media strategy or I'm a social media strategist? Where do I start? The very basics, the very baseline. We're answering these questions of the who, what, when, where, why, how. So, the who is the very first place I recommend people start because you need to figure out your target audience and your ideal client before you can go anywhere else. So that's where I'll start you off here momentarily. The what, the type of content that you'll share. The when are we going to find time for this? When are we actually going to post? Getting in that consistent posting rhythm. When is my, when should I post to get the most out of the content that I'm creating? The where, again, what platforms will I show up on? I don't have time to be everywhere. I don't want to be everywhere. Some of these platforms my people aren't even on. So figuring out that where. And the why is kind of that mindset piece. So if your reason is just because you were told you have to do social media for your business, we got to find something a little deeper to keep you motivated and engaged because it does require some creativity and some original thinking. So you've got to figure out that why to spark that. And then how is the part where we'll talk about things that will make this achievable and easier. So again, we'll start with the who, your target audience. And if you don't know who that is, I want you to kind of take some notes and narrow that down a little bit today while we're on this workshop. So I love the quote that says, if you're talking, it's something along this variation of this. If you're talking to everyone, you're speaking to no one. Because, first of all, if you're just putting out content for you and what you think, or what you want to hear or what you want to produce, we've got to flip the script and try to put ourselves in the shoes of people who don't do this every day, may need a little bit more handholding, may need a little bit more basic info from you, or, you know, things that don't feel over the client's head. And you want to not necessarily keep it so general that it appeases everyone, because then your target client doesn't scroll and have that feeling of, oh, they're talking to me, or this is exactly what I needed to hear, or wow, they really understand the position that I'm in. This is the realtor for me. So that's what I know. It's scary to niche down and create really specific content like that, but I think you'll be amazed at the difference it makes when you start speaking to very specific people that you want to reach about very specific topics. So you'll hear me use that word specific a lot when we're talking about content creation, the hooks that we write, the captions that we write. The more specific and the more detailed, the better. So clearly define who your ideal viewer or client is. So, what are their interests in life? What are they currently struggling with in the phase of life that they might be in? Um, what does that look like from their perspective, and how can you speak to it? And this obviously ensures that you get the right audience watching your content, following you, so you can continue to speak to them. Um, your content for them should be relatable and engaging, of course, as always. This worksheet is kind of a good starting point to answer some of these questions. If you want to, while we're working through the social media strategy portion, if you want to take a picture of it and answer some of those while I'm going through it, or of course, this will be emailed to you so you can go revisit this, just the slides at a later time. That works too. So start with the demographics, general age range. The other thing I want to note is you may have two, two or three, I would say, try to keep it to two separate worksheets where you have two different types of content that you regularly put out. One speaks to this person and one speaks to this other person. So it's okay to fill this out two or three times and use that for content pillars, which we'll talk about in a minute as well. So, demographics for your, let's say, your customer persona one, what is their age range? Where do they currently live? And or where do they want to live if they're not if they're not there already. Family status, typical income level. Of course, these are going to be ranges, but this will help you get all of this info out onto paper to start thinking about the content they want to hear from you. Their values and interests, what do they care about most? When it comes to real estate and working with a realtor specifically, but then just in general, what are their interests? When it comes to real estate, what keeps them up at night worrying about buying or selling? What are their goals, aspirations? Why are they buying or selling? Like, what is their why, essentially, is what you're going to answer here. And then number three is easy. You're just checking the box of, are they first-time home buyers? Are they upsizing, downsizing, investing in real estate, relocating from or to Indy? Where are they currently? If you had to guess, if you don't know, that's okay. But if you had to guess based on one, two, and three, your answers to that, where are they primarily spending their time? It also doesn't hurt to ask your people, hey, if you're active on social media, what's your favorite platform and why? And that could give you a feel for where people are at. I mean, there's research online as well that is pretty general, but will tell you, Facebook is a slightly older crowd, which I resent because I still actively use Facebook, but it's fine. It's my job. So, Instagram is somewhere kind of in the middle. So is Threads, which those are all three meta platforms. TikTok, maybe slightly younger, but hey, there's plenty of quote older people on TikTok that are running the show as well. So, that's a very top level look at it. So that gives you a good starting point to kind of think where your people might be. And then write out notes, just kind of brain dump your thoughts on what topics these people want to see. So, what questions do clients or prospects regularly ask you, and how can you answer those questions in the content that you're creating? So, I mean, those are going to be the types of posts that you easily get engagement on, that they're going to engage with the most. So, before you'll get any type of engagement, whether that's a follow or a comment on your post or them reaching out to you directly, which is obviously the ultimate goal, they need to feel like they can see themselves in your messaging and like I said, like you guys would be a good fit and there's some alignment there. So when we are talking about the what, once you figured out who you're posting for and who you're talking to, what are we going to post? That's usually the part that trips us up, right? Is overthinking it, a lack of, getting stuck in not enough creativity to come up with something original, feeling like we don't know what to say. So I'm going to go over the basics of a structure of a great post. And I have these three. This is very basic, very top level, but then I will talk to you also about hooks and what I mean by a great hook. So, human connection, I've mentioned this a little bit already. We want that authenticity and the relatability. social media in general has steered away from just educational mini master classes on every post, learning, 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 because people got kind of tired of that. And that's not to say that bite-sized education isn't still working, but we need it to be that. We need it to be bite-sized and then also still have a piece of human connection, not something that we can look up on AI. I want someone's personal experience on the matter more than I want 12 home fall maintenance tips. Okay, so human connection, relatable stories. You are in this business every day. You have more stories than you realize. So that's where I recommend you start when it comes to creating your content calendar and what would make a good post for your clients, past, present, and future. The visuals, we're trying to get away from stock photo more and more and more and more. There is a time and place for them when it's kind of inevitable and you need to utilize stock photo, stock video. That is fine, but we want the primary source of those visuals to be you, of course, because you are client facing and they need to see you and feel comfortable working with you, your team, if you have one, or your day-to-day life, whatever you're comfortable with sharing, or like who in your life is comfortable with being involved in your content. Seeing people having that personal touch is always going to be better. Now, it doesn't mean that you, in every video clip, it has to be your face. But if you are the one filming it and it's more authentic looking than a panning stock video that you pulled off of Canva of a random house, you're going to be able to tell the difference. So just less polished is working well, which I feel like we should all be excited about and all jump on because we don't need professional videographers following us around to get this good content that will work. We just need to take out our iPhone and film a few 10-second clips. And then your tone of voice. So be careful when you're using AI to write your captions because you want it to sound like a human wrote it. So if you're using AI for copywriting, sure, fine. I could do a whole workshop on just prompts to use for getting those more detailed responses so that it actually sounds like you and not just regurgitated copy that everyone's using. Keep that tone of voice on brand for you. So write like you actually talk specifically. And then, like I said, hooks. So hooks matter more than ever, especially for reels. So a hook is that getting someone to stop scrolling within the first few seconds. We have quite literally under 3 seconds to get someone to either read our post or scroll past it. And a hook is something that, if we're lucky enough to get them to read the first few words, we capture them with that. So, off the very top of my head, an example, if you're doing a testimonial and instead of saying client testimonial at the top of the graphic, you could say, I can't stop thinking about this one line from my client's review. And then the next slide could be the review itself. So some more interesting way, which would you stop to read? We're all a little nosy, so we kind of want to know what did they say that they can't stop thinking about versus client testimonial. Yeah, nobody's going to read that. So that's what I mean by hooks, especially on your videos, but even on your graphics and your carousel images, your carousel graphics, which are more than one graphic, like a slide of graphics. Those are more important than ever. So some more tips to get this content that you're creating, seen by the right audience. We want to, I feel like optimize is another one of those buzzwords that in my industry we use a lot, and it's like, okay, what does that even mean? So we want to get the most out of our effort, right? The most reach, the most impressions for what we're putting our time into. And we also want engagement. That's an important metric on social media. So to optimize these posts, to get them seen, to get meaningful engagement from the people who are seeing them. In addition to that hook, the good visual, and the relatable content itself, at the end, we should include a clear call to action. So if someone gets to the end of the post and it's just kind of a shoulder shrug, I don't know what to do here, I don't know what you want from me, that's what's going to happen. They're going to move on to the next one. If you put together this awesome post and they get to the end and it specifically and shamelessly asks for shares, saves, comments, tell me what you think about this, text me at this number, email me, click this link in my bio to get free whatever. Tell them and tell them again in every piece of content. We have a call to action bank that we pull and use for our clients. So we have some that we rotate through depending on what we want the client to do. And we put them on every single post. Even if it's just a lighthearted, funny post, it's followed with call us for this, comment here for this. So clear call to actions. And then when you're creating in general, thinking of posts that can encourage that back and forth, the conversation starter type posts. We call them the engagement posts, but really that's what we're doing is starting conversations to boost our reach and, of course, create connection, which is what social media is all about in the people that we want to follow us. And more important than ever is taking advantage of keywords. So in the last, I want to say year, maybe 18 months, because time's flying and time's not real, but it just feels like a blur, right? Especially with all the updates. So there came an update in Instagram, specifically Meta in general, that your post, your content will be searchable through search engines, if that makes sense. So if someone types you in on Google and you're mentioned in a post, that's more likely to rank on top pages on Google. So that is why in our captions, we want to take advantage of keywords. So if people are searching certain topics, both on search engines and on the platform itself, especially Instagram, a lot of people use Instagram as a search engine these days. There are some pretty ridiculous stats for that that are high percentages of the people of certain demographics that use Instagram as a search engine along with a high percentage of people who search for specifically realtors on Instagram. So anyway, that's why I bring that up because keywords cannot be overstated. And you can now post only 5 hashtags. So you're limited in using hashtags as keywords, but you want to make sure you're taking advantage of those as well. But things that people would search to find you. So location is key when you're in real estate. So putting in cities and states in your captions, in your hashtags, even when it's assumed and you think people know you or know where this house might be or know where you sell or where where you work out of, including sentences like I help home buyers and sellers in Indianapolis, Carmel, Noblesville, Fishers, Indiana, listing all of those cities. That's a basic example because location is so important. Other keywords that are important are pretty much anything real estate related, Indy real estate, Indianapolis real estate, Indy realtor, um, all the different cities with real estate, realtor included with them. So make sure that when you're writing your copy, the best way to look at it when you're trying to come up with keywords is if someone that I want to reach is seeing my content for the first time, is it blatantly obvious what I do, where I work, and who I serve? And if not, then we can plug in some more keywords to make it so. That's something that I like to use AI for. So if you are comfortable in Chat GPT at all, or if you've tried it, you can write your original caption, give it to Chat GPT and say, can you keyword optimize this caption while still maintaining my tone and my general words? Don't make the keywords sound forced and see what it comes back with. And are your posts, well, okay, so I kind of talked about that, this part though, are your posts clearly targeted? Could you get more specific? So when you're creating these captions and this content in general, and you're using keywords, you need to make sure you're also specific, talking about who you are and why you are speaking on this topic, if that makes sense. So your sort of mini resume is how I would look at it. Telling people, as a realtor in central Indiana who, and then you could insert, who sells X number of homes a year, or who has been in the industry this long, or who, um, it doesn't have to be something that, like a milestone you've achieved, but just something that gives you the authority to speak on this topic. Include that in the beginning or the end of your caption as well. And the reason I call those authority statements, the reason we do that is again just to be more specific so people know exactly who you are. And it helps with keywords and that, specific topics so that people know exactly who they're consuming content from before they even follow you. So, what to post as you get started. So, writing up a content calendar is always going to be a good place to start. I always suggest it because it gets ideas flowing. It gets you kind of looking at your map and a checklist sort of what you need to get done to create these posts. So starting with neighborhood highlights. I love, love, love. These are probably my favorite right now and the most fun for you to create. So if you're looking for a type of content or a content topic to get you started, this is what I suggest. Neighborhood highlights could be your neighborhood specifically, a neighborhood that you work in a lot, a city in general, a county in general, and what that location has to offer as far as amenities, um, local restaurants, coffee shops, parks, events that are happening right now that you could go to. These are the types of things that get you out, um, take pictures, film content, film videos, and put together a simple, easy, reel or static image post about the coffee shop that you met a client at or a friend at, to talk real estate. And they don't even have to be directly real estate related, but of course, you are then showing the authority that you are out in the neighborhood, working the streets essentially, of, hitting the pavement. So these are always a good place to start. They're low pressure, they're fun, and they get good reach. So if you feel like you're spinning your wheels and you're not getting good traction, this is a good place to start. Behind the scenes video is another one, and it's not as comfy to get you started initially, but it's like I said, if we're being honest, people are nosy. So let's just give the people what they want. And again, what you're comfortable sharing matters. It doesn't have to be the nitty-gritty, dirty laundry that you're airing on social media, but behind the scenes of your general work day, seriously, or photos. Um, it that again feels authentic. It's not overly polished. People see that you're actively working and what you're up to, and it's very low pressure. And then storytelling or quick helpful tips. You have stories to tell, you just don't know how to put it together yet. So writing out a short script, um, recording a video using that script, and then continuing to go along even when you mess up and just trimming out the mess ups later. That's the best way to do it because it's the fastest way to do it. Otherwise, you won't ever get it done. You're not going to memorize your 20-second video perfectly. So just use your script and keep talking. That's great for storytelling, for that relatability piece, or for those bite-sized tips. So like I said, nobody wants a list of home maintenance tips for the upcoming season, but they would like to hear from you, a realtor and homeowner in Carmel, Indiana, who is cleaning their gutters this weekend. And if you hired someone to do it, or if you're doing it yourself, how to do it, how often you do it, and a picture of you while you're doing it, or making your significant other do it, or the vendor that you hired to do it for you. Like, this is the type of stuff that this is what I mean by the behind the scenes and the authentic content and the storytelling, while also giving helpful tips. Does that make sense? I hope. And then testimonials from clients. So again, we want to make those as interesting as possible so that people care to read them. But you could even do a post to ask people in your sphere for testimonials because you are trying to create more content. So there's your first piece of content. Hey, I'm trying to grow on social media this year. If you've worked with me, could you please send a review or testimonial here so that I can use it for content in the future? People love to help on stuff like that if you ask them specifically, and they love to see themselves featured in your content as well. So, answering frequently asked questions. So again, this goes with the helpful tip angle, but to figure out what to talk about and what to create, I always tell people to write out, if they don't already, have a written out list of questions they are asked daily, weekly, monthly, and answer those questions on social media. Because if one person is asking them, others are asking them too. They just might be too afraid to ask, or they don't have a resource to ask. So be that resource for them. And then, of course, realtors seem to forget it is a great place to market your listing. So I feel like there's two extremes here. There's the agents who only do all the other things and never actually market their listings. And then there's the others that only market listings. But your clients do want to see all of the different avenues that you have available to market their home. So, of course, marketing your listings on social media is one we don't want to forget. Okay, so this kind of ties into a little bit of the how, but I want to talk about your simple weekly workflow because this is key. Simple. We want to keep it simple and not overwhelm you. So, 2 to 3 posts per week, if that feels doable to you to start, it's a great place to start. If it's not, start with 1 post a week. I would rather see you post 52 posts this year, one per week, than in February, post 2 to 3 posts a week and then get burnt out and not post March, April, May, or June, and then pick up again in July. Okay, you'll see better results from posting. It won't be a lot of results, but you'll see more from one per week, every single week consistently than you would getting hot and cold, starting and stopping. So that 2 to 3 is what we find is enough to stay top of mind without getting completely burnt out on it. To give you a comparison, on average, our clients that we do management for are on 3 to 4 posts per week. We do 3 posts one week, 4 posts the next week, and rotate through that. And that is a good marker to be at to see some growth. So 3 to 4 is like the next level that you're trying to get to, but 2 to 3 is a great starting point. And again, if that needs to be 1 to 2, I'm not mad at you. Just do what works for you to stay consistent. And stories, this is pretty specific to Instagram. Facebook has stories as well. If you have your Facebook and Instagram connected, you can just share them to both at the same time. But Instagram stories is a great way that when you're not posting to your feed, they are quick little videos. We have a whole workshop on stories, so I don't want to get into the, confusion of that right now, but make sure to come to that stories workshop this year, where we will focus on just like a story strategy. But they are simpler. It's a simpler form of content to keep you top of mind that you can do throughout your day or on your days that you're not posting to your feed. Okay, so when we are trying to create these 2 to 3 posts, it's best to have those topics, or they're called content pillars or content buckets, to pull from, things that you regularly post about so that people know kind of what to expect from your brand. So you have that brand consistency. And this will come from figuring out that who and what your target audience wants to hear from you. I just saw a reel last night that said, uh, brands are posting, or I'm sorry, brands are um, using the same commercial for years, and yet you're afraid to talk about your service or your offering again, which is so true because I think something that hangs us up when it comes to social media is worrying about coming up with new ideas and fresh topics. Because to stay relevant, yes, you do need to come up with some original content, but there will always be people who didn't see your post the first time, who forgot and need to hear the message again, or again, you have new followers that obviously didn't see it the first time. So for those reasons alone, repurposing and reposting the same content needs to be part of your simple weekly workflow to keep it simple because you do not have to create a new piece of content every day for the rest of your life. Let's make it let's make it work for you. So figuring out that could be seasonally you're reposting things. It could be, you have two posts that every month you recycle that work for every month that aren't seasonal or aren't any market specific. Um, and those are already built into your calendar each month. And then the rest of the content you're pulling from your different categories of topics. So it's easier to write out your calendar. When you're doing this and creating your content calendar, sourcing those visuals at the same time will save you as well. So whether that's Canva graphics that you're creating in one batch, or a mix of that and photos from your camera roll that you already have. A lot of times you can put what you already have in your camera roll with a caption and it's good to go. So start there, or at least write up your list of what you need to capture for the next month. And I personally love scheduling tools. I don't want to say always use one because some people prefer to post live, and that's fine. But if you want to do all of this in one sitting and then not have to think about it, use a scheduling tool so that it publishes automatically. I have a link. I think I have the link, but I have the recommendations for those in a couple slides. And then to really push your content a little bit further, engage with your audience. So again, this is a whole separate workshop, but if you are simply posting and not doing anything else with it, you're going to ask me later why you only get one like and it's your mom. This is why. If you want people to see your content, engage with your content, you have to give a little, especially in the beginning if you're just getting started from scratch. You have to do some outbound engagement, comment on other people's posts, comment on businesses' posts. We spend a lot of time engaging with local businesses, especially for this industry, that will not only will they see our comment and then see our page, see our content, but people who also see their posts will see us as well. So let's say a coffee shop has 10,000 followers. We leave a positive, encouraging comment on their piece of content that gets thousands and thousands of views. Other people who see that have now seen our name popping up in their content, in their caption, I'm sorry, gosh, their comments, and are going to check us out. So, in turn, if people take time to leave a comment on your content, please respond to those. Respond to DMs promptly. It tells the algorithm that you are active. Oh, of course, these images are going to be broken links. That is not good. Can I pause this for a second? Grace, I'm not sure if you're there. I'm gonna try to see if I can fix those somehow. Excuse me. Because this piece, I want to make sure we're comfortable with because it's optimizing each of those individual bios. So give me just a second. See if I can recover. Okay, they're good on here. So let's see. All right, thank you for your patience. Let's try this again. Okay, I'm hoping you all can see those now. All right, so your Instagram profile basics. If you don't already have a business profile or creator profile, I suggest you switch to one. You can switch your personal profile to a business. I say we, but it's Grace. I'm pretty sure she has a video on it if you need a tutorial. And that I recommend for a couple different reasons. You can put your location in there, you can put links in there, and you can use analytics to see what posts are working. So, in your business profile, your username and your name fields are both searchable. So, first of all, we want to take advantage of keywords when we are optimizing those, fixing those. But we also don't want to duplicate what they say. So I don't want you to have your name real estate here and then the same exact thing here. Okay. So you'll notice I have my business name, which also includes my name as the username, the handle, whatever you want to call it. And then this right here is the name field. So typically people have their business name or their personal name. I still have my name, but first I have what I do, what I want people who are searching for social media consultants or strategists to find when they are searching for that. So, city, state, real estate, or realtors specializing in XYZ. It's actually you can see this is pretty lengthy. You have a pretty good or character count that they've updated to, so you can play with it or again, ask chat to make based on your niche, make a keyword optimized searchable name field for you for Instagram. You can only change it, I think it's twice in 14 days. So make sure you're not just playing around with the actual changing of it, but you pick one that you're going to be happy with. Um, so yeah, take advantage of that. Don't overly repeat yourself. Make sure that this one is name recognition because that's the one that will pop up first. They'll see first. They'll go searching for if they know your name or your business name. And then utilize these contact buttons and links. So having Instagram impressions, viewers, reach, engagement, followers, that's all great. But that is not going to get us to the closing table with buyers, sellers, right? We need to get them off of Instagram. So what does that look like? And what do we want them to do and how can we make it easy for them to do once they find our Instagram? So the contact buttons, make sure you have a current phone number, email address. If you don't want to put your phone number, have an email address. And then these links here, make sure that these are current and take them where you want them to go, essentially, but what makes it easiest for them to get in contact with you or take the next step in working with you. So with that, we want to answer these questions in the bio itself. Who are you? That needs to be abundantly clear. How can you help me? Where are you located? And what do you want me to do? So we're doing some hand holding here. So I just use mine as an example because I have it, but answering who I am in the name field. I'm a social media strategist and consultant. Another reason I like this in the name field is because it doesn't take up space here. I obviously do have that we do consulting, management, and more. But it answers the question of this is sort of my mini resume of we've been in business for 7 years and we bring marketing peace to overworked business owners. So we can help you through consulting, management, and more. Where you located, I use the city and state that you can access with a business or creator profile, but some people put it in their bio. city and state spelled out because of keywords. And what action do I want people to take? I want them to book a one-on-one consulting session with me, which is available to book in this link here. So, call to action, taking them to the links, telling them to go to the links or the contact button. We want to tell them exactly what action we want them to take. Um, with your Instagram profile, you can create pinned posts. So if you are thinking, okay, regularly, frequently posting will not work for me, but I want to have some sort of landing page. My posts themselves might be more sporadic, but we want to create sort of a start here grid that is perfect for pinned posts on Instagram. So it's the first thing people will see when they read your content. So I do recommend, and for our clients, we update them about every 3 to 6 months so that the dates on them are somewhat current. Um, Even if you posted down here yesterday, if you have a pin post from January of last year, February, March, April, that's the date that will show. So people should recognize that, but we just don't want to lose anyone who thinks, oh, wow, they haven't been on here in 3 years because their pin posts are from 3 years ago. But this is sort of, you can, another place to answer those questions of who you are, how you can help, what you do, what it's like to work with you. You can break those into three specific sort of start here posts and answer those questions here. Okay, Facebook profile basics. I know I'm running out of time and I promised time at the end to answer questions. So I'm gonna breeze through these as much as possible. Also recommend posting to a business page for Facebook. I know people, we love our personal Instagram or sorry, Facebook pages, and that is fine, but I do recommend you post to your business page and then share it to your personal, post to your business. Okay, I want to make sure I said that right. Post to your business page, share it to your personal so that the people, your friends and family, and the people that support you on your personal page see that you have a business page that they can then go follow. So you have all the advantages of this intro, contact information here, links, and analytics is honestly the main reason. And you cannot use, at least the scheduling tool that we use and Meta's free scheduling tools, you can't use for a personal page. So if you're going to want to get serious about posting and using those scheduling tools, then a business page is the way to go. And I love to look at analytics because it tells me where I'm wasting my time and where I should put more of my time into when it comes to creating content. Okay, so same, Facebook is super basic, same with the basic profile setup. They do have a cover photo here, so make sure you're using the correct sizing. Canva has sizing to go off of that you can work with for a cover photo. Profile photo for you guys, whether it's individual or a team, I recommend people in your profile photo as opposed to the Tucker logo or your team logo or whatever that may be, because real estate, we want to connect with a person, right? We want to see a person there. Your name field is very difficult to get Facebook to change. So I highly recommend that you get it right the first time. And we're not getting fancy here with keywords and searchability. We are just saying our name and whatever Tucker guidelines you need to follow. It's something like, the name and FC Tucker Real Estate Company. I know that they have some marketing guidelines on that, so make sure you're following those. Because speaking from personal experience, working with some clients that we've had to change the name, even when they've done full rebrands and we have proof of the rebrands, you're dealing with Meta AI if you're trying to make changes. And if they don't like it, it's very tough. So get your name field right. A short bio here. They've shortened it. So go back and check if you've had your Facebook page for a while. Go back and check and make sure your full bio is still there because they did cut out the character count without really telling anyone. They just cut everybody's off. Make sure your contact info is correct. You can also, here under the posts area, you can do featured posts just like your pinned posts on Instagram. So that gives people kind of a start here place. All right, LinkedIn. Individual page versus business page, I don't have as strong opinions on when it comes to LinkedIn for real estate because for the most part, you're individuals, unless you happen to be on a team or have a team. So an individual page is really fine. And as long as you're doing professional photo, banner the right size, and making those consistent across all the platforms you're on. So let's say you are on Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn. Let's make that I'm sorry, the profile photo the same so that people recognize right away. And when you change it on all. Um, a headline here is searchable. So we want to make sure we have location and we want to have some value as well. Anything that you want people to find you for, how you help people, and where you help people. So helping first-time homebuyers in Zionsville, Indiana. That's like the most basic. I took a screenshot of Ashley Sims. She's with Tucker, I believe. And well, yes, she has got her Tucker banner. Her detailed headline here that I love. So just to give you an example, like these are all the different things that she does that she's in and that people would be able to find her for when searching. Your about section. So this needs to be less about you and more about them. So answering that how you can help people, getting more detailed with that in the about section will convert more. So you can make it sort of a mini resume, but if you do, it needs to be things that they care about and not just random awards or accolades. And the experience and accomplishments section is another area that you can kind of brag on what you have accomplished in real estate specifically or in other related industries that kind of brought you to real estate. Your featured section are things you can put things that you've posted, articles that you shared that you liked. So if you are active on LinkedIn, it will show like your post section and then your featured section you can pull from to um, highlight certain things as well. And then, of course, contact info, make that accurate. LinkedIn makes it very easy to create your custom URL. So if you're setting up your page for the first time, just make sure that your URL makes sense, that it's your name or whatever you're able to set up your custom URL as. Okay, an almost free social media toolkit. I call it almost free because some of these you want to pay for the premium versions and such. So, Canva, of course, we love Canva still, design and edit graphics. You can even work on videos in there to make them the right size for reels, carousels, those slide through posts, tons of templates, AI features if you want to mess with those. Metricool has a free version of a scheduler that we love for one brand. If it's just your brand that you're posting for, you can add all the platforms. I mean, they have TikTok, they have LinkedIn, all the ones we talked about, Threads, and some that I don't even know what they are. They have pretty much every social media app. I think they even have your Google business profile that you can schedule for from there as well, which is awesome. ChatGPT has a free version that you can use for writing tools. We use the paid version and notice a big difference if you've been on the fence about that. Um, just something to test out if you're generating your caption outlines or coming up with some content ideas, your calendar, scripts for videos that you want to record. Just when you're feeling stuck, kind of gives you a place to go. And then for editing videos, if you're going to dive into Reels or TikToks this year, the Edits app for Instagram, it's looking like they haven't officially announced this, but it's looking like you're only going to be able to edit Reels within Instagram's separate app called Edits. This happened to me on my personal account yesterday. I went to edit a reel and it said, sure, you can do that if you open it in Edits. So I have a feeling they're testing that out so that people will have to use that moving forward. InShot and CapCut are other ones that you can use for templates for creating TikTok reel type content. You can do basic editing things as well. There's music, overlays, all those things. And then my toolkit for getting started that I love, obviously differing price ranges on these two tools, but when it comes to a microphone, if it's as long as it's just increasing the volume of your voice, if you're just talking directly to the camera with not a ton of background noise. This $15 to $20 option on Amazon, there's a lot of different sellers that have this same mic. I use it as my backup mic. Um, I just have it in my bag, and when I need to, it holds up just fine. And I've had it for years. So I always tell people to start with that. Holding the mic when you're recording videos, talking videos gives a nice visual hook for people to look at. And it does help with sound quality, which matters to the algorithm. So that's a good starting point if you're going to start getting serious. This gimbal is a stabilizer. It balances your phone. So when you're recording videos walking through a house or panning shots or whatever it may be, it keeps it from having shaky, unbalanced video. And I've used several gimbals, went with cheaper ones that I could not figure out how to use. So this one was worth the investment. It's around 100, maybe $125. Worth the investment because I just flipped it open, connected my phone, and was off and running, which I feel is very important because you can buy a cheaper one, but if it's just going to sit in your desk, it's not going to be very helpful, right? Okay, so things you can do now that you have all of this information. So better understand the strategy behind your content before you even start putting together and putting up posts. You have a better idea of who you're speaking to, why that matters. And hopefully, I gave some good tips on what great content is going to look like in 2026, those personal connections, the visuals of you, your voice, strong hooks. We're letting go of polished and we're getting back to the basics, which we should all be excited about. Framework for when and how you'll post, where to show up, and how to optimize those profiles. Again, this workshop, the slides will also be emailed to you, so you don't have to rewatch the whole recording in order to get the slides if you want to go back and look at those profile optimizations. Um, Tools and gear as well will be in here, will be in this slideshow for you to re-look at if you're ready to take the next step. I feel like sometimes buying those tools to make this an actual thing that you're going to do is enough motivation to really kick it into gear. So that's one reason I suggested those. So pick your action for this week. It's only Wednesday. We have a couple more days in the week. You can pick an action to take this week based on our session to get you moving. So again, the snowball effect, once we get moving with something actionable to get our social media rolling, then we'll want to keep going. We've got the motivation to keep going and do the next thing. All right. I know I'm right over on time. Maggie, I'm going to ask your question or answer your question real quick. Oh, Grace, you answer. Okay. Okay, Grace, were you mentioning that for the sizes?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Yeah. So Grace mentioned in the chat, social media primer on the toolbox has some size requirements for posts, that type of thing
And
to.
for like their profile, for like the name and all of that, that
Oh,
needs to
good.
be in there.
Ah, yes. Okay. So for the FC Tucker, like make sure we're following the rules there. Okay, Maggie, you put the city in the location part of a post. Would you suggest also putting the city in the caption? Yes, so great idea to put the city because that will make you more searchable, more reachable, more able to find if you put a location tag. So you'll notice that when you create a post, it'll pop up giving the option to pick city, state, or a location of a business or something like that. So you can put that in your post so that people can find you easily. But for keywords, I still would put the location in the caption itself so that if worst case scenario, you get found twice. But yes, those are different search features. So that's why I hate to say keyword packing in the caption because that sounds spammy. But since we're limited now to only 5 hashtags, we have to get creative with how we are getting those keywords into the caption. So, short answer, yes. Also put it in the caption. And I will get this over to Grace when we get off of the call, so that you guys have the presentation. And I think within a day or two, she has it up on YouTube if you want to rewatch. So thank you guys for joining this morning.